I initially thought that the latest episode of Me and Mickey was a bit of a weak link, but once it got going, I could certainly see value in this. The Funny Camera Filters is the 47th Me and Mickey vlog, and it starts off with Mickey playing with an on screen series of camera filters where he'll press the button and an image will appear over his face. Now, to be honest, I feel like this is not that great because one of the great things, or something that children thrive on, is being able to see facial expressions because it's not always as easy to pick up the tone when you're younger and what kind of tone the person is trying to convey, other than, extremes, anger, shouting, or laughing. But because Mickey's got these filters over his face and they're a solid image rather than something that's expressive, it stops young viewers being able to see his facial expressions, and that in itself I think is a bit of a problem. Not a huge problem, but I did think it was a bit of an oversight. It should have at least been a filter that made him look like the thing, but you could still see his mouth and his face and his eyes moving. But once I kind of got over the fact that that was in itself not a great thing, and I also thought, okay, you're advocating young children use technology, and I don't love that. Not that I'm saying they should never mention that technology exists, because it's just part of the youngest generation's everyday life nowadays, but I always feel like TV shows, and Disney in particular, should have a level of responsibility for encouraging children to not play with phones and tablets for as long as possible. So that's another thing that I think is not that great, but I do have to understand that most young children nowadays are growing up with tablets and phones, or at least access to them. I realise that I'm getting older, and back in my day is a very common phrase that people of my age are going to be starting to use. So I realise that it's just part and parcel, I guess. But then Mickey tells some jokes, which I think makes it quite fun, quite silly. Some of the things he's putting on his face are quite entertaining, I think, for younger children. So even though his facial expressions aren't visible, what they can see can potentially be amusing. There's an element of interactivity where he asks the viewer to move like a monkey and make monkey noises. I thought, okay, it's getting slightly better. There's some participation involved, and he asks some questions and tells some more jokes. So there are definitely benefits to it, and the ultimate message that he ends on is that it's fun to play pretend, but the best thing you can do is be yourself. And I thought, okay, this may not be a perfect episode, but that's a pretty great message to end on. So it restored my faith by the end of it. Yeah, it's not my favourite episode. I don't think it's the most beneficial. I feel like there are, potential problems. Not problems, that's maybe an over-exaggeration, but things that I think were not the best decisions. But, for how much damage can you do in the case of 2 minutes? Not a great deal. It's Mickey Mouse. It's pretty safe. Yeah, not the best. But it definitely had some redeeming qualities.